friends. Welcome back to Not Again, the podcast that brings college-level analysis to preschool-level content. I'm one of your hosts, Rebecca.
I'm your other host, Alan.
And today we are finishing talking about Beauty and the Beast 2017 live action.
I certainly hope so, but possibly also one more episode. We'll see.
Provided we don't go off on another tangent about barrels. Oh, I owe you something.
Oh, yeah?
I forgot I owe you something. Okay, here we go. Hey, honey, what do you call somebody who only makes small barrels?
A Mini Cooper.
There we go.
Emma Watson's character, Belle, is a Mini Cooper because she made a tiny barrel.
We assume that she made it herself with her big inventor brain. Alan came up with that pun after we finished recording the last episode and was distraught at not being able to scream it to the world.
As we were walking upstairs after recording the episode, I was like, oh, Mini Cooper. But it's not even that funny of a joke. And normally puns like that get me divorced, so...
Yeah. When last we spoke, I was yelling about the audacity of the furniture laughing at her for trying to talk to a hairbrush. The next thing that we have is the Beast inviting Belle to consume nutrients with him. And this is a little bit of a plot hole fix because she does refuse in the cartoon, but in the live action, they explicitly make Belle say, you just took me prisoner, and now... She hangs a lampshade on it. She's like, you took me prisoner, and now you're inviting me to eat with you. That's insane. Which it is, but like...
Well, I mean, prisoners gotta eat.
I don't know. So that happens. But what happens is she says she'd rather starve than eat with him, and he says, be my guest. He goes, well, be my guest. And then, you know... I don't know. He leaves. He just goes to be grumpy somewhere, I guess, in his lonely tower.
He goes to his lonely tower. To his grumpy tower. It's right next to the lonely tower.
The grumpy tower is next to the lonely tower, but on the other end of the castle, you're going to find your silly tower, which he doesn't go to much anymore.
No.
He's just not feeling silly these days. But yeah, so...
He's got a bouncy castle in it.
The whole tower is a bouncy castle.
Oh, there
Are you kidding me?
It's an inflatable tower.
Yeah, it's full of mini barrels. Anyway, so yeah, I did like that. There were like occasional sparks of brilliance in this otherwise drab movie, but I liked that they brought up that kind of little tease of be my guest. And so then she decides to starve. The next note I have is that they definitely tried to avoid calling him a prince, and I can't tell why. Because who else would he be? And if she knew he was a prince, would that affect her desire to fall in love later?
Yeah, I think the point of it is that they can't put their hand on the scale and be like, he's rich and he's a prince, and like if you fall in love with him, maybe we'll live or something. But no one told them that they couldn't do that. Yeah. And also, like, it's a castle. And it's got lots of ornate stuff in it.
And they all serve him.
And they all serve him. So, like, unless she's the daftest person ever, like, yes, of course he's a prince. Or at least fabulously wealthy and important, or formerly important.
If I were writing it, I would fix it by having... anytime, because the enchantress lady, she made everybody forget the prince, to fill that plot hole. And so I would have it be that anytime they bring up that he's a prince, the person forgets, because like they can't, like it's part of the enchantment. They just can't know that he's a prince or something to fix it, because she can figure it out. So for those who don't know, Mrs. Potts says something like, I know that he is squirrely on the outside, but inside there's a prince of a fellow, and it's like, just say he's a prince. Like, I don't know. Maybe it is the putting a hand on the scale thing that you were talking about.
I guess, but like, they serve him. They live in a castle. Like, what else? What else would he be?
This, I think, was supposed to be a plot hole filler, but I don't like it. It doesn't open up other plot holes, but it's not good. So Belle goes and does the thing where she she is, there's a giant beast with big teeth and claws, and she's like, I'm going to do the one thing that I know will tick this guy off the most immediately and with no like second thoughts, which happens in the cartoon too. She's like, wow, he's pretty scary. Anyway, the one place he doesn't want me to go, I'm gonna go. Let's help too, you know. And I mean, like, I guess she's got chutzpah, so she goes to the West Wing and she enrages him and whatever. And I feel like there's probably a plot hole or two that were fixed in there, but I don't even know. I don't even care. But she ticks him off, and then he yells at her to get out, and she's like, "Cools, man. I wanted to anyway," which is what she says. It's a direct quote. And then she runs out, but the servants lock down the castle. They try to prevent her from leaving. In the cartoon, they just go, "Oh no, please don't leave." Like they're like, please, we have been cursed to be teapots. Like, please don't leave. But she just runs out the door. In this, they lock it down. Like the door starts locking and they're trying to prevent her from leaving actively. So of all the people, for lack of a better term, in this castle, the beast is the last one preventing her from leaving. The servants are the ones who are trying to keep her actively prisoner. And I did not like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a kind of self-preservation situation where they want this to work so that they can be human again. In fact, you'd have to tell me if this is true in the cartoon, but in the movie, they are becoming less and less human.
You did it too. In the live action. For some reason, cartoon and movie, movie means live action, but yeah.
Moving picture.
That's something they added.
In the quote-unquote live action that's mostly CG, they added, apparently, that they are becoming less and less human, and eventually they will become objects.
Yes, and that's to add a ticking clock, I guess, for the servants as well, but I don't really understand that. We have to break that down a lot, but whatever you were going to say, you can say.
Yeah, so, I mean, it makes sense that they would be like, no, don't leave, you're our last chance, we're all dying, but that doesn't paint them in a positive light, because they're keeping her prisoner as well.
Yeah, and so, again, in this movie, in this version, the servants have it worse. They're turned into furniture, and then they just become furniture if the spell doesn't get broken. So they effectively die, whereas the beast just stays a beast. So he still gets to live, though. So why are they being punished? I didn't understand, because there was already a ticking clock. They would have just stayed they would have stayed alive furniture, which is, that's still a punishment, right? So I don't understand why they added that.
Yeah, everybody's getting it worse than the person who's actually supposed to be being punished in this film.
Yeah, and at the end, because I'm going to jump around here a little bit, they totally take the wind out of the sails of the big emotional moment where the beast is dying and Belle is crying over his body, because then they cut to all of the furniture becoming furniture, and then they cut back to Belle still crying over the beast, and it almost feels like, meanwhile, back in the castle, like, I understand that we're trying to feel for more characters than just the royalty, which is good, because, like, down with the monarchy or whatever, but it just, they had to stop and be like, look at how sad all of this is. The cup is a cup for reals now, and it's like, okay, but I mean, the love story is not between Stanley Tucci Piano and Audra McDonald Wardrobe. That's not the actual love story.
Yeah, they love each other the whole time.
They do. They never cease loving each other. And so, good for them. But I just, yeah. Anyway, I've said my piece. We're getting to the good stuff here. Gaston is a straight up murderer and is soothed by the thought of war and widows. So he's a psychopath in this. Like, he just decides to murder Belle's father. I mean, they really, really wanted to assassinate his character here. They did not think that we would be against him enough up to this point. They were like, we also have to have him try to murder Maurice via wolves, death by wolves.
They made him an unsympathetic enough character in the cartoon.
Yes.
But they didn't, it wasn't...
he just conspires to get Maurice put in the insane asylum, which he already does. Like, he does that as well in the live action.
Yeah.
So, for those again who don't know, I'm remembering now that some people have not seen this movie. LeFou attempts to mitigate Gaston's anger by saying, like, think of the war, think of widows, and he calms down from the thought of, and of course that's supposed to be ironic, and of course, he loves bloodshed so much and all that, but he calms down from the thought of war and widows, countless widows, I believe is the exact term. And it's weird.
I can't speak for people who have PTSD because I don't, but I imagine that this is kind of a caricature of something awful that.
I mean, it might feel like a slap in the face.
Yeah,
to
that's what
people
I'm
who
trying to say. Like it's a.
There are people who try not to remember the
well,
war.
it's like it's a joke about like the horrors of war.
Yes, there are widows because their husbands have been killed in war. Yeah,
and it's like, oh well, isn't he? I don't know.
it's tone deaf. It's in poor taste.
Yeah, and because like that, I mean. We've had wars. People who go see Disney movies have been in them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they might just be like, well, screw this movie. You know, like, that's really rude to talk about it in that way.
Can we say that? Let's say yes. PG.
Nuts
right?
to this movie.
Yeah, it's PG. We'll go with yes.
Yeah.
Here is my favoriteest scene in the whole movie. I love it. I genuinely love this scene, but not for the reason that they wanted me to love this scene. The giant snowball and the comedic punch sound effect, which sounds like a kid's story. It's like Belle and the Adventures of the Giant Snowball and the comedic punch sound effect. So here we go. In the cartoon, during the song, whose title I'm going to remember because I'm tired of not remembering titles.
Something that there wasn't before or something like that.
Hold on. I have to sing it in my head.
It's a song about how they're turning the corner in their relationship.
Yes, he's dear
it's
now
the same in
and
the cartoon.
unsure, and she likes how he's showing vulnerability and doesn't know how to feed birds or whatever. So that's in the cartoon. And then she throws a snowball at him, which shows, I mean, I think I like that because you don't throw a snowball at a 2-ton monster unless you're 110% confident he's not going to tear your head off. Like, you know what I mean? And so it shows that trust that she has in him.
It's building, yeah.
So not only is she being playful with him, but it's a pretty good symbolic gesture that she trusts him completely to not hurt her. And then in the cartoon, he does just decide to retaliate by gathering up the biggest heap of snow that a 2-ton monster can gather into his arms in preparation of throwing it at her. But what happens is you see her throw another snowball at him and he drops it all over himself. Ha 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 ha. It's so funny. In the live action, pretty much the same thing happens to start with. She throws a snowball at him, symbolic of her trust in him to not hurt her. And, okay.
Symbolic of her trust that he won't just
knock her out.
Knock her out.
And then he gathers up a beast-sized mountain of snow and throws it directly at her face. And it hits her with the comedic punch sound.
It connects, too. It's not a glancing blow.
It connects head on, and she falls over. And it cuts to him looking satisfied. And then it cuts to the next scene. She could be dead.
At least concussed.
He knocked her down in one blow to the head, and and he was satisfied with himself. Like when she didn't get back up, he didn't go, "Oh no, I should go check on her." He looked like, "Yeah, try throwing a snowball at me, huh? See where that gets you."
I showed you, Belle. Belle?
Yeah.
Belle?
Yeah. Stay down, Belle. I'm not good at recording audio from the shows and movies we watch, but I so badly want to try to get the comedic punch sound effect. So I am going to leave just a space here and hope. Okay. We have to move on, but why did they make that decision? It didn't fill any plot holes. It wasn't like it was a plot hole that he never did get to. It's a Chekhov snowball. He didn't get to throw it. If in the first act, the beast gathers up a mountain of snow, and by the third act, he must throw it at a woman. Like, no, there's no reason to change that. It was funny, but not for the right reasons.
I choose to believe that there was a certain contingent of the people making this movie who really didn't want Emma Watson to be cast. And this was their revenge.
They actually threw that snowball at her. It wasn't effects.
It wasn't an effect.
They were like, you got to method
They
act
just
this
got
one.
it on film, and they were just like, that's going in.
Yep. And then it doesn't really get better from here because we get to the line in the song where she sings new and a bit alarming. And there's some hesitation in Cartoon Belle's voice. It's like new and a bit alarming, like she's kind of thinking about it. But in this version, Emma Watson is really thinking, she's got her thinking face on, and she just goes new and a bit alarming. And just the different emphasis really makes you think about how she is considering the fact that she's attracted to this beast. And as we talked about or hinted at least last episode, that doesn't get better. Like, the end of the movie kind of solidifies that maybe she didn't have a problem judging him by appearances because she discovered that this is something that she's okay with. And so I don't like the way they did that new and a bit alarming line.
Yeah, it's supposed to be about inner beauty. We've discussed this in the previous episode, how the lesson is learned by the wrong people and it's kind of disjointed. It seems to be that the reason that this works and they fall in love is partly because she's just cool with the fact that he is a beast.
Yeah.
And so she does kind of like him for what's on the outside.
So nobody learns the lesson.
So nobody learns anything.
Nobody learns anything. Go home. Thank you for your money, says Disney. Next, we get the book that lets you travel anywhere. First of all, it literally lets you travel. So it's not like an astral projection thing because Belle brings back a bauble of a rose, which means that she was there, right? And by the way, they didn't take the book with them that I saw. So how did they get back? I guess it was a really awkward carriage ride when the beast was like thumbing a ride. Like, I didn't think this through. I'm sorry. We need to get to France from Paris. And when we go down the road, there's going to be a tree blocking the path. You just got to wait for some lightning to hit that tree. And then we can go home. And I don't have money and I'm not tipping you. And goodbye. So that's how they get home.
We got to wait for the time loop to reset.
Yeah.
It's going to be a couple months.
Yeah. So So the book that lets him go anywhere, he calls it like the Enchantress's cruelest trick. And because it lets him go outside, but I guess he wouldn't want to. So she gives him this ability to leave knowing he won't use it. But when did she explain this to him? She came in, she cursed him. You think she sat around with an instruction manual? And she's like, okay, first of all, here's this rose. Let me tell you about the rose. Second of all, here's this mirror. And third of all, here's this book. Now, the book is going to let you go anywhere, but I know you don't want to because look at you, you're ugly now. Do you have any questions? I do have this brochure. And like, she came, she cursed, she left. When did she explain this book, her cruelest trick?
Also, okay, here's how the curse works in my quick recollection. He's got to find true love based on not beauty on the inside. And so the book is super useful for that.
Yeah.
Like, because he's got to meet a lot of people.
Go find somebody who's into that.
Go find somebody, right?
It just so happened that somebody who's into that wandered into his castle, but yeah.
He should have been going to nightclubs every weekend, you know?
And on top of that, are we supposed to believe, this was something we've brought up before, are we supposed to believe the Enchantress is the antagonist in this movie? Because not only is she called an intruder when she first shows up on screen, but if she's using cruel tricks, if she's actively being cruel to him, then we're not supposed to believe that she's doing the right thing and teaching him a lesson. We're supposed to want him to learn this lesson, and yet she is definitely billed as an antagonist, as well as Gaston. So is she the cruel intruder that the Emma Thompson narrator made her out to be in the beginning?
I guess they don't. I mean, tonally, they don't really solidify anything.
And then later she rescues Maurice in the form of Agatha. So they're very confused about if she's a good person, entity, whatever, fairy, fae, I don't know, or not. But mainly I don't like that the book is just, it opens up other plot holes, and it only... They only put the book in the movie to quickly allow Belle to teleport to the place where her mother died to figure out the mystery. And she does. And the mystery of Belle's mother's death is she contracted the plague like a third of Europe did and died from this incredibly deadly disease. And her father left so that he and his baby would not also die of this incredibly deadly disease. And there's no shame in that. And there's no mystery behind it. And he could have just been like, Belle, your mother got the plague and she didn't want you to get the plague. And so I left.
It's like they do kind of say like it's a giant mystery, but like Belle knows that her mom isn't there.
presumably she knows her mom's dead. And later, when they're in the wagon that's going to take them to the sanatorium, whichever, she says, I know what happened to Mammon. I'm just going to say French as badly as possible.
Okay.
I'm going to lean into it. By the way, donkey laundry. There, I said it in all three. So she says, I know what happened to Mammon. And he's like, now you know. Now you know the truth. And I had to protect you. And it's like, yeah, that's perfectly understandable, Dad. Why didn't you tell me 20 years ago or however old I am? There was no shame in that at all. Just tell me my mom died of the plague.
Well, you already knew your mom was dead, and it turns out the big mystery is she died in the least embarrassing way possible. The way everyone dies.
The way thousands of people died, I believe. It was a huge number.
It was
right?
huge. I think you were maybe even spot on. Where it was 1/3 of Europe.
It was a statistic that stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
Somehow, and I don't know if I'm right because history is not my strong suit. But it killed a lot of people.
It was just everybody.
Yeah.
So
and it spread. That's why they wore the super awesome masks. It was virulent. I'm an English person. I should know this. Not an English person like chip chip cheerio, but English as I know grammar. But I never said this word out loud.
Virulent?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was infectious.
It was very infectious.
And the fact that he left, I think it was supposed to be that he was ashamed that he didn't stay by her side till the end, but she was defos gonna die. So
no, and they went to this not poor provincial town in order to get away from it because of course, cities, high population density, all this sort of stuff is where plagues like to live. And so they went to the country to get away from the plague, which was smart.
And so that book, it didn't go with them, so how did they get back? When did the Enchantress explain the rules of it to him? Because he, knew, you have to put your hand on it and you have to, focus in your heart where you want to go, And then it opens up a plot hole because later when she sees that her dad is in trouble in the mirror, she could just use the book to get there. And instead she goes on a horse, which takes longer. She could teleport to him, and she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean...
Unless she teleported the horse, too. Maybe she told the horse to think of where it wanted to go in its mind's eye, and it was wherever the oats are, and that happened to be her home, so it worked,
Well, I mean, maybe the beast told her to book it, and she just didn't understand. You can cut that out.
Nope, just gonna divorce you. That's, yeah. I didn't even plan an ad for this episode, but now we're gonna have one. I guarantee it. We'll be right back after this divorce.
Hello, listeners. I'm Kay, a musical theater nerd.
And I'm Warren. I'm musically challenged.
We host a podcast every Wednesday called Tone Deaf, a theater nerd's guide for their musically challenged spouse. Join us as I introduce Warren to musicals he's never seen and test his knowledge about musical theater.
You have to have knowledge in order to be tested.
You've come a long way, babe. Now you know that Andrew Lloyd Webber created Cats and not West Side Story.
Is that the one with the cobras?
And we still have a ways to go.
Tune in every Wednesday to Tone Deaf.
All right, so our marital troubles aside, the exact quote is, the Beast asks, what happened to your mother? And she says, it was the one story Papa could never bring himself to tell. Belle, your mom got the plague. Good story, Dad. It's not a story. It's not. She got the plague. Okay, we got to move on.
All right.
Yeah, it was the one story he couldn't bring himself to tell. It's not. It's not a story.
It's not a once upon a time sort of thing. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. So if Agatha is the Enchantress, which I still am not clear on that, I think she is though, why doesn't she punish Gaston for the arrogance he displays? All the prince did was tell her she couldn't stay in his castle for a night. Gaston is consistently horrible and arrogant in every single way. And don't you tell me that enchantresses work in mysterious ways. I don't want to hear that. She knew he was going to die from the path that she put the beast on or whatever. She's living in the town. They decided to make her living in the town. She witnessed Gaston being 10 times more arrogant than the beast every single day and was just whatever.
She doesn't care about the common people. Her magic only works on royal blood or something. I don't know.
Fair enough. He literally tries to murder someone and she's like, Yeah, but
Yeah, cool, whatever.
look, I only got one spell in me. Like every enchantress, you can just do it once. And I really didn't like royalty at the time. It was my youth. I don't know, man.
Maybe it's like a one at a time thing. Like after the beast resolves his curse, she gets her one curse back.
Yeah.
That's why she's got to hang around the town. You
Oh,
know?
yeah. She's like waiting
She's
and
like,
waiting.
it's like, oh god, I thought he would have found love by now. Jeez,
Jeez, oh my
I have other royals to bother.
should have done Gaston first and then the
Yeah, that
beast.
would have taken like an hour.
Oh, God. Anyway, I have already said this, so I'll say it quickly. I believe the chemistry between the Beast and Belle only in certain moments. Like when he gave her the library, I did not. When they're talking to each other about how they both find themselves awkward in social situations, I was like, okay. But for the most part, it never gets beyond the close friendship stage to me. I don't believe her at all when she says she loves him at the end. Then we get the dress. I wrote, OMG, the dress. I forgot the dress. I actually love the gold ear accent, but the dress looks like it was made at a craft store with glitter glue. Also, why does the wardrobe suddenly develop the power to magically melt a chandelier into gold dress trim? Why does the wardrobe has dress powers, I guess, which she does in, no, she doesn't. Actually, yeah. Oh, were they trying to fill a plot hole with that too? But clumsily? Because she does just have that gold dress in the cartoon, and I don't think it really says where it comes from. Like, the wardrobe opens up, and there's the green dress and the pink dress, which we see in the movie, but the gold dress had to come from somewhere, I guess. So, obviously, she found a Joanne's, and there's the Joanne's Tower, right next to the Silly Tower.
Well, no, but that's not even that big of a plot hole because it's a huge castle, there's lots of closets, and they have extravagant parties all the time, or had them. Mm-hmm. There's dresses. It happens. Like, they probably just had a yellow dress, gold dress, I guess, lying around. That I just totally believe. Her fashioning it out of chandeliers or whatever is, again, where does her magic come from?
Yeah, so I mean, the wardrobe just like turns a chandelier into gold dress accents, and I love that earpiece. Like, I want that earpiece. It's really pretty, and I love uneven accents. So, for instance, the Bajoran earring in Star Trek, like I like that it's like on one side.
Yeah.
But the dress, it's not gold, it's yellow, and it looks cheap. I know that this is something stupid to harp on, but that dress is okay.
You can't use that word.
I can't use that word. I'm cursed to not use that word. I'm cursing myself to not use it. That dress is a symbol of the movie at this point. When you see posters and when you see I was about to say the Britishism. I was about to say adverts. When you see advertisements, that's the dress you see.
When you see a Disney princess lunchbox,
yes, she's in that
not
dress.
wearing her peasant clothes. She's wearing the dress.
Gold dress.
She's wearing the dress.
Yes, and so I feel like I was so disappointed. And you know what? One of the times when they have chemistry is during the dance. And I liked that dance because they did, like, during the kind of crescendo of Beauty and the Beast. I remembered that song's title. I can't imagine why. They kind of do this, like, starry background thing, and they're kind of gazing into each other's eyes. And for once, I was like, okay, yes, this I believe. But the dress was such a disappointment to me. And yeah, you know what? I get to just do this. I guess this is... The next thing that happens is she asks to see her father. And obviously, in both the cartoon and the live action, what I want for the Beast to say when Belle is like, I'm a prisoner, is to be like, Belle, I haven't considered you a prisoner in a really long time, and I'm sorry that I haven't said that. I just didn't want you to leave. I love you, and I wanted to keep you around, and it was deceitful, but you're free to go whenever, and I hope you'll come back. But of course he doesn't say that because he's awkward or whatever. So she asks to see her father. She looks in the mirror. She sees her father. In the cartoon, it seems like she's pretty sure she's going to come back. And so that is a plot hole where it's like, well, if you're sure you're going to come back, when he says, keep the mirror so you'll always have a way to look back and remember me, why don't you just say, well, I'm coming back. So, I mean, like thank you for the mirror. But
yeah, all my books are here. Like a nice soft bed. Like
your servants don't make fun of me.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say no to a good time.
The I Want Adventure. Okay, I think the other reason for the book was because she sings I Want Adventure in the Great Wide Somewhere and then ends up in a castle 2 feet from her house. And she doesn't get adventure.
That's not really adventure.
So I think that was another thing is she wants to see the world. The book also fills that plot hole. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Okay. But in this movie, and like I said, I give credit where credit's due. In this version, it seems like Belle is uncertain if she's going to come back. She seems unsure. She wants to, but she's also given her freedom. She doesn't know what's going to happen. And so that makes sense. Like why she wouldn't be like, oh no, I'm coming back, you know. So that at least happens. We're getting to the end of the movie, I think. Yes, I even see the end of my list. How exciting. By the way, folks, don't forget to check Twitter. I'm going to take a picture of my plot hole list and maybe just some other fun things. I don't know, and just throw it up on Twitter at some point. The Lonely Tower song is good. We both like it.
Yeah. I like to say I was surprised they added a new song or more than one.
They added more than one, and I the only new one I liked was this one.
Yeah, but I do like this song, but I have to say, runtime.
Yeah.
They just didn't need to do it.
Yeah.
And there's no new plot. There's no new anything. It's just the same plot drug out for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, like, I wish they'd cut other of the new songs, like the Maurice song that he sings that they reprise in the credits. I hate that song. So if they cut that and left Lonely Tower in, sorry, I just spaced out as I replaced Lonely Tower with Silly Tower, but like still he's singing it like really morosely.
I'm bouncing in my silly tower.
I'm bouncing in my silly tower. Now I have to keep your singing, and I hope you're okay.
Oh, well, we'll see if it sucks. It did last time.
No, it did not.
It did.
Okay, whatever. But so here's the thing. The reason I don't like it is, even though it's a good song, is it really tells the romance rather than showing it. So after all that, he goes, by the way, guys, I love this woman. I look to her to walk in, and I will think of her forevermore, and all of that. And it's like, yeah, you're telling me that, but
we haven't seen the chemistry between you to earn that.
Honestly, I don't think that. Like, I think they could have gotten to there. To love, but I think it would have taken a Lord of the Rings trilogy length of time at the rate that they were going to get to where I would believe when she's sobbing over his dying body that his dead body, I don't know, whatever, his dying form, as the life leaves his eyes, that she says, I love you. Like, I don't believe it at the end of this, but maybe after 12 hours I would.
And there would be nothing wrong. I mean, that movie wouldn't be unwatchable, but like, there's nothing wrong with a slow burning romance.
This should have been an HBO series.
Yeah, starting off slow, you know, getting to know each other slowly, earning each other's trust over a long period of time.
That
can be very healthy.
Because I'm going to be a published romance short storyist now. No big deal. It's just me. That this is called the enemies to lovers trope. And it could have worked, but not in the time that they gave it. And they invested a lot of time in the wrong stuff, in building up LeFou being possibly homosexual, in making Gaston tie up Maurice to a tree for some reason. So I feel like they could have invested more time in the actual relationship, since that is the central relationship in the plot.
Yes, it is called Beauty and the Beast, after all, not Maurice and the Tree.
Maurice and the Tree. And Agatha, I guess. So I would prefer the romance be shown than told, but I like the song. I found a lesson. Now, this is a line that is in both versions of the movie. It's, he's not a monster, Gaston, you are. And there it is, the lesson that exists in Frankenstein, the lesson that exists in Beauty and the Beast, and any number of stories is that man is the real monster. Bambi teaches it, Tarzan teaches it, all of that. Man is the real monster. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you look like a monster, but you act nice, it's the irony of the monster acting more humane than the human, all that stuff. There's the lesson. I didn't like where it came in this particular version, because in the cartoon, Gaston says, and I wish I'd written this down, but it seemed like such a nitpick, but like, why are we here if not? So in the cartoon, Gaston says, like, it seems like you have feelings for this monster, and she immediately rejoinders with, he's not a monster, Gaston, you are. In the live action, I swear there's like another line in between it where he says, she seems to care for the monster. He has her under his spell or something like that. And then she goes, he's not a monster, Gaston. It almost seems like she's not responding to the right line.
The monster has her under his spell. If I didn't know better, I'd say she even cared for him.
He's not a monster, Gaston. You are.
Like, he doesn't have me under a spell would be the proper, you know what I mean? Like that kind of.
Like she thought about it. She couldn't think of the right rejoinder right away. He got another line in there, and she was like, she wasn't listening to that. She was thinking.
I got a really good burn. Hold on. He's setting me up for something. He's not a monster. He's not a monster, you are. I
know you are, but what am I?
Yeah, something like that. So it was just a little bit clunky because it seemed like she was responding to the wrong line.
Yeah.
One that had already passed by, basically. But then I wrote, I guess I I don't know why I got this direct quote. This is from the Gaston song. I've given up on finding any of the titles correctly. So the Gaston is storming the castle song. 50 Frenchmen can't be wrong. You know, that kind of thing. That's an actual line. They added a line for LeFou to foreshadow his either heel turn or face turn. We've never figured that out since episode 2 or whatever it was when we said it, where he says, there's a beast running wild, there's no question, but I fear the wrong monster is released. First of all, I think they wanted to rhyme beast with released, but near miss on that. It's internal rhyme, but not quite. I guess it's to drive home the lesson that the beast, you know, the real monster is Gaston, but also maybe I quoted it because it sounds a little dirty. I don't know, like a monster's been released. I don't know why I quoted that. I didn't really explain that to myself.
Well, we're having a hard time, actually. I mean,
I forgot it was going to be 3 weeks by the time I got to this part. So I was like, in the moment, I typed everything up and I was like, you know, it made sense.
We're having a real hard time figuring out who the real monster is. I mean, Gaston does just straight up try to murder a dude.
Yeah.
So that makes him
Maybe
a monster.
Maybe he's already been released. I feel like LeFou, you're a little slow in the update.
Yeah, you're actually a little late.
Yeah,
I mean, he did try to kill Maurice earlier.
Yes, an innocent 6'1" man.
So, so you the beast kind of got released a little while ago.
So so Belle shows up and she's locked in the wagon that will take them to the insane asylum.
Yes,
with her dad.
The prison trolley.
The prison trolley, and that's when she says, "I know what happened to Mammon." And he says, then you know why I had to leave her there. I had to protect you. And I was like, that makes perfect sense. You could have told her at any time. So we moved on to that.
It's a standard parenting. Any sane parent would probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
And tell her that.
Yeah. The next thing is that when they're at the castle, Gaston inexplicably says it's hero time. Like he's suddenly in a children's 90s cartoon action adventure. It's hero time. Like he might as well
like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
It's hero time.
It's Power Rangers. It's Clobberin' time is the thing from, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah.
It was so weird for them to put that line in there. It does not sound natural at all.
Well,
it's not anachronistic because technically all those words exist, and yet the idea of having a catchphrase is anachronistic.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't know. It baffles me.
It does sort of fit his character because he thinks of himself that way, but that is so far established by now. This is the end of the movie. You don't need to convince us that Gaston views himself that way. We already know that.
Yeah, did you want to just shoehorn in one more bit of irony that he's calling himself the hero when he's the villain? Like, that's too clunky, you know?
And it's too late. Like, the movie's over. You don't need to be like, oh, he's not the hero.
Yeah, we kind of get that. And also, just have him say it in old-timey speak. Be like, no, LeFou, there's no time. I must go and be a hero. That was terrible. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just like,
it's time for heroic actions.
Yes, I must take heroic action. Like, I cannot be your hero, LeFou. I must go be Belle's hero, or whatever it may be. Anything other than it's hero time.
It's hero time. I can't do the Power Rangers guitar riff.
Yeah,
you can find that clip though, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Do they say it's hero time on Power Rangers?
No, they say it's morphin time.
Oh, it's morphin time. Yeah. So basically, it's blank time is at least two people's catchphrases, and it's all from modern. And I will try to find him saying it's hero time. And again, I'm not really good at sound bites, but we'll see.
It's hero time.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Goes to do that. So Belle is sobbing over the beast. I already talked about how she has to be an action princess, so we'll move on from that. But basically, that's why we skipped so much. It's because that's the scene where the beast is jumping from tower to tower, all of his towers, and Gaston shoots him and has bows and arrows, and he has multiple weapons, and Belle fights with him over the gun, all of that, just to make her more active, but it feels very forced in, and it ultimately leads to not, N-A-U-G-H-T, not. So whatever. But then, she's crying over his body. He's been shot multiple times. Oh, I guess that's another plot hole. Like, I didn't even get all the plot holes, and my list is long, as you'll see. Gaston in the cartoon. By the way, I have to say this now because there's no time. My mom growing up, she had gloves that she wore to wash dishes. You know those like yellow gloves, the dishwashing gloves. The gloves that Gaston wears, that's all I ever saw was the like Mr. Clean dishwashing gloves. I was like, why is he always washing dishes? I mean, I didn't actually think that, but I was like, I couldn't unsee it. You know, those were the dishwashing gloves.
It would keep the blood off your hands.
I suppose. And so, yeah, anyway. So in the cartoon, he stabs the beast in the side with a dagger, and that could kill a man. But I believe that the movie makers were in agreement with me here that it probably wouldn't have been a fatal wound to the beast as he was. So him dying from that.
He's the size of a bison. If you stabbed him with a dagger, they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah. We just got to hear your North Dakota.
I guess.
Yeah. Hey, folks, did you know that I say bison differently than my husband does? Yeah.
I don't really hear the difference but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, you say it with more of a Z sound, bison. But they also, I think maybe it was water buffalo. They took like his horns were from.
Okay.
Yeah, they took inspiration from a buffalo, I believe, but not a bison. But yeah, so I don't think that would have killed him. And so in the live action, he's shot multiple times, which would. So I think that they filled that one in. And honestly, that's one of the plot holes that works. Did it need to happen that way? No. And maybe gunshots are more actiony and final. I don't know. But, you know. So he's dying, and I just don't believe her when she says she loves him. So Agatha comes to the castle to undo the spell, ? And what if she hadn't been there? So they made a muddle of it where it was supposed to be the spell breaks when he falls in love and gets love in return, the spell breaks. Instead, she walks up and like turns the glass into mist. It looks like she is actively breaking the spell.
Yeah.
Like she had to be there to do it. And so it was more like she chose that. Like, first of all, it puts the impetus on her to say, okay, I now believe that you're in love, as opposed to just the feelings being there to break the spell. You know, true love's kiss and whatnot.
Yeah.
The power of love and all that. And then she seems to have to be there to break the spell. So is that why she was hanging around the town? Because she's like, oh man, I cannot miss this. If I miss this, then I'm not going to break the spell.
Yeah,
like,
if she was 15 minutes late, then it's just like, what would he? Everybody would just be objects and everybody be dead.
Yeah. Oh, I must have missed the note where we talked about I don't know. At some point, we'll just throw this in here real quick. The plot hole exists that the servants are punished for the beast's vanity, which nobody ever understood. And they decide that the way that they're going to explain that is Mrs. Potts is going to say that the king, the prince's father, is abusive and they stood by and did nothing. And no, that still does not justify them turning into objects and essentially dying if the curse is not lifted. Second of all, the servants didn't stand up to the king and stop him from abusing his son. One, why is that your responsibility? Two, what servant is going to do that, no matter how loyal?
I mean, this is one of the reasons why royalty shouldn't exist, but also it's just like nobody goes like, no servant is going to be like, hey, actually, stop doing that, guy.
You know,
like, no, that's not how it works. Like, they are a monarch.
They even demonstrate that when Cogsworth, like, he says he was going to stand up to the beast and you know, he's frightened to do so. They don't do that. And no, like, why was Chip punished for, like, none of that makes sense. Chip is a child. So no, they couldn't come up with an adequate reason to fill that plot hole, and they tried, and it just, It also implies that it is someone else's job to stop abuse, and that's a dangerous precedent to set because a lot of people feel guilt for various reasons for not stepping in when, you know, they take that burden on them and it's not necessarily their fault. Sometimes people are responsible for stopping it, but not always. And it's a touchy subject. So I don't know. I must have missed that note, but I had to throw it in there because they're turning into objects now. Their punishment is being fulfilled, even though they really didn't earn that punishment.
Their punishment for the crime of being nearby.
The pinch did not justify the ouch there. But yeah, so I guess I missed that. But yeah, so they're all turning into objects, and Agatha, like, comes to undo the spell, but it's her choice. And then this was their chance. They're trying to make up for so much stuff in the cartoon. They could have made up for the super overdone, cheesy transformation sequence that the beast goes through. And by the way, he is dead, and I would love it if he transformed back into a human but was still dead. It would just be so awkward. Anyway, but they still do a super overdone transformation sequence. And I was like, they could have done it better. This is the one thing I wanted them to fix. And we are getting to the end here. Here we go. All is well. The Beast is back to being a human. He is better looking than the cartoon version, at least. I always felt bad for Belle because, man, is he an uggo. Not that, I mean, like, I guess it doesn't matter because she doesn't judge by appearances, but when he first turns around in the cartoon, I go like, every time. It's just like, please turn back into a beast. Your voice is worse too. I like the deep voice. And yeah, so he's human, yay. He goes and hugs his servants and all that stuff, and Emma Watson's pretty happy and whatever. And then they, cut to the wedding scene. And here's one thing. I love the end scene. I don't know if it's a wedding, but whatever. The dance scene.
The ball, yeah.
Her dress, I want that dress. It's like this. I don't usually like white outfits because white's kind of just a boring color. But like it's this white gown with like all this like flower motif on it, and the shape is like, I love that. I wish that had been the ball dress, the golden dress or whatever. The dress that was from Beauty and the Beast, the song, pales in comparison to the ending dress. But anyway. So they're dancing, and Audra McDonald is singing, and then they made the decision to have Audra McDonald singing be cut off so that Emma Thompson could pick up where she leaves off. Audra McDonald to Emma Thompson. Are you kidding me? It's like saying, like, hold on. Stop eating this filet mignon. I got a 2-day-old McDonald's burger here. Like, stop. You got to eat this burger instead. It's really old and crusty. Like, no, I'm sorry, but Emma Thompson's voice is a 2-day-old McDonald's burger. And I'm just so mad that they did that. So mad. Why did you get on Audra McDonald at all if you weren't really going to have her sing?
It's like we're at a cello concert. We're going to start out with Yo-Yo Ma, and then it's Mrs. Gunderson's 5th grade class.
Yeah. I mean, Audra McDonald's on Broadway, okay? Broadway. And I'm sure Emma Thompson has done many plays, but come on. All right. So here we go. The last 2 things we have to talk about. Number 1, deep breath. She's dancing with her husband, her husband. He's a human now. And she's looking at him a little speculatively. And he says, "What? What is it?" And she says, "How would you feel about growing a beard?" Because she misses the fur.
And then he kind of growls. It's like,
yeah, he growls. I think they cut in an actual animal growl to that too. And I was sitting there being offended. Like, it was so uncomfortable. And then the LeFou being openly gay was 1.4 seconds of potential gay dancing is what I wrote. He ends up in the arms of another man. This was a character who, another plot hole they fixed, which they could have just, okay, I'm jumping back a little bit. During the scene where the siege on the castle, where the furniture is fighting back, in the cartoon, the dresser fights by making men dress up as women. She like throws a comb and a brush at them, honestly. And I love actually in the cartoon where the comb and the brush like vibrate a little with their anger before attacking. I like that very much. But all they do is put them in women's clothing, and they're so terrified by this idea that they run screaming from the castle. Obviously, that's an outdated idea, obviously. But their idea to fix it, like they could have just had the wardrobe smack them, you know what I mean? Or, tie them up with fabric. It didn't have to be the exact same thing. Instead, they had 3 men get dressed up in women's clothing. 2 of them were still terrified and ran out the door. And one of them realized that was what he wanted to be. He loved the idea that he was in women's clothing. And while I don't mind that portrayal at all, and he looked fabulous, it didn't actually fix anything because there were still 2 dudes running away from being in women's clothing.
They were so terrified of the fabric itself that they ran away in terror.
No, like, it didn't change anything. I think that the only way that could have really been a fix, if it had just been that one dude attacking her, and then she dressed him up in women's clothing, and he was like, "Oh, thank you." Because as he walks away, she sings, "Be free, be free, be free." Like, be free to, in other words, be free to be who you are. But yeah. So anyway, so this dude who liked being in women's clothing, and by the way, not every man who dresses in and anytime I say women's clothing, by the way, please understand, I mean traditionally women's clothing, like
In whatever year France it's supposed to
yeah,
be.
exactly. Like clothing is just clothing. I don't actually, but this is the person who, not every man, right? So not every man who dresses in traditionally what we would consider women's clothing is gay, but we are supposed to believe he is because LeFou ends up in his arms at the end in this dance, and it's an accident, obviously, and they look at each other and think, maybe, and then we just cut away again, and that's like, that's the big gay scene is like potential gay dancing. And I wanted them to make out, like go for it. Have them kiss.
Or, like hold hands on a bench or something. You don't got to go crazy, but like, show that they're like a little bit into each other.
There's just nothing scandalous about that movie.
No.
And if there are people out there who are scandalized by it, please make the decision to not want their money. Like, you are still going to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Make the decision to not want the money of people who are scandalized by two men touching, or a guy being okay with being in clothing that would consider, like a dress, basically, so that would be considered female. Like, okay. Then we get the reprise of the song I don't like, but we are done with live action Beauty and the Beast.
We made it?
We made it. I didn't think we were gonna, but we made it. And thank you for
helping us maintain our marbles.
Yes. And thank you for existing, and thank you for listening. Next time, we'll talk about Bluey. I have to watch it a little bit, but I also want to talk about Cleo and Cuquín, which is it comes out of Mexico, I believe, but it's on Netflix, and it's a show that I think I actually like a little bit.
So we're going to talk about some shows that we might potentially like.
Yeah, I don't know about Bluey, but it didn't look that obnoxious.
Well, apparently it's got some good reviews behind it, so we'll see if we enjoy it the way other people have.
Yeah, so that's for our patron who requested it, Julene, of It Goes Down in the PM podcast. And so we got a couple things lined up. And I also think, hold on, okay, so we need time. We need time to watch Bluey because we both need to see it. So I'm thinking next week we might have to dive into Tayo and Titipo. I think it's time.
Yes, I think.
He's still watching Tayo.
Yes, he is.
So I think to give us time to watch Bluey, we'll do Tayo and Titipo next week, and then we'll do Bluey after that. So,
okay.
Thank you so much. And, all of our support links are below. There is a plethora, so I'm not going to go through them. We appreciate you. Until next time, I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Alan.
Bye, friends.
Bye.